Hey folks, and thanks for tuning in to this, the first video of 2017. Back in 2013, AMD's classic flagship, the HD7970, went on a bit of a price diet and a performance bulk-up, and re-emerged on the market as the R9 280X. Base clocks on the 7970 come in at 925MHz on the core, and 1375 on the VRAM, giving an effective speed of 5.5 GHz. On the R9 280X, which in this case is a board partner version from PowerColor, the core clock is 1030MHz, and the 3GB of GDDR5 VRAM are clocked at 1500MHz, which is effective 6 GHz. Now that's not a huge increase over the original 7970, so it begs the question, does it matter which one you buy? Both cards can be found at fixed price auctions, both here in the UK and in the US, for about £90 to £100 or $100 to $120 respectively at the time of recording this video, and they both make a fantastic budget buy, as long as you've got the 6+8 pin PCIe power connector available. The card's 3GB of VRAM means that games can take advantage of higher texture settings, and even in 2017 both cards still have enough raw horsepower to push those pixels to the screen at a fast rate. When testing out other budget cards like the GTX 950, the RX 460, or even my own personal GTX 770, in a few games, specifically GTA 5, I had to lower the settings in order to stay within that 2GB VRAM buffer that was available. The fact that this problem isn't an issue on the 280X is why in my recent GPU roundup for sub £100 GPUs, the R9 280X came out on top. So moving on to benchmarks, we're going to be testing both cards in exactly the same rig. It features the Core i5 4590 CPU with its clock speeds locked across all 4 cores at 3.7 GHz, coupled with 8GB of DDR3 RAM. Testing's going to be done on base clocks initially, but we're going to talk a little bit about overclocking before drawing a conclusion. The first game on this test is the Metro Last Light Redux benchmark. We've set it to the very high preset with 16 times anisotropic filtering and SSAA set to off. The HD7970 averaged 77 FPS with minimum FPS of 45. The R9 280X pipped that a little bit with minimums of 45 FPS just like the 7970, but this time an average FPS of 86. Next up was GTA 5, all settings were set to very high with 16 times anisotropic filtering and FXAA. The HD7970 averaged 61 FPS and was seen minimum frame rate of 52. The R9 280X averaged 64 with minimums of 54. We tested Battlefield 1 at 1080p on the Ultra preset, and the HD7970 averaged out at 57 FPS with a minimum reading of 52. The R9 280X pipped it once again with a 60 FPS average and lows of 58. In Crysis 3 on the high preset we run through the Welcome to the Jungle level, and the HD7970 averaged 58 FPS with lows of 44. The R9 280X averaged 66 with the lowest frame rate we've seen being 48. When it comes to synthetic benchmarks, the R9 280X has the legs again on the HD7970. We returned a score of 7,443 on the 280X and 6,828 on the HD7970. So on the face of it, the R9 280X looks like the better choice. It's clearly faster, even though it's not by much. But that's not really the whole story. I managed to boost both these cards' clock speeds up to 1125MHz on the core and 1700 on the VRAM. In 3D Mark, we've seen a score of 8148. Now that's a considerable increase over the stock 7970 and a not bad increase over the 280X. Likewise, in the Metro Last Light benchmark, we achieved an average frame rate at 89 FPS, and while that's only 3% faster than the 280X, it's 15% faster than a stock 7970 can reach. So with that in mind, the things that are important is first of all the price. At the moment, price favours the R9 280X with a sort of nostalgia tax seemingly pushing up the prices of the 7970. But as ever, this might change next week, or in your particular region it might be completely different, so you really got to research it for yourself. Secondly, and more importantly, is card condition. The cooler on the 7970 I originally bought was in much worse condition than my R9 280X, and that was detrimental to performance levels, noise levels and heat. Swapping the coolers from my R9 280X onto that card, it brought everything on a level playing field and allowed us to match the R9 280X overclock. So when shopping, buying from someone who has cared for the card is a great idea. At this stage, both cards should have had their thermal interface material replaced at least once, so asking the seller the history of the card is a wise idea. So in closing, should you really favour buying one or the other? No, condition and price are much more important factors, and if you take the time to find the right card at the right price, you're going to have an excellent budget GPU in your hands that's more than capable of playing your favourite games at 1080p. Well, this about wraps it up for this video, folks. Let me know which one you prefer in the comments below, the classic or the rebrand, and thanks again for watching this, and be sure to click that subscribe and thumb button if you enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully catch you all in the next video.